Hello everybody, and this is the start of my new series called Redstone for Noobs. So it's really, I don't mean it as in noobs in a bad way, but just for people who don't really know much about Redstone. So the first thing to know is that there are three crucial ingredients for Redstone. Redstone repeaters, redstone dust, and redstone torches. So I assume you already know how to craft these objects if you're even watching this. Redstone travels 15 blocks, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Show you a better example. This is it. So that's how far redstone travels in all directions. So it's 15 blocks this way, and then 15 blocks in every other direction. So as you can see, there is particles above this, but when I put this here, there's no particles. So how you extend the current is you put a repeater there. Now a repeater not only can be used for extending a current, it can be used for many other things. But for now, just think of it as something that you can extend a current. Now, if you know the basics of repeaters, you know that if you click on them, you can change the space between the torches. What that is that delays the signal. So we'll get into that later in a bit of detail, but for now, just know that a repeater will extend a redstone signal or current, whatever you want to call it. So that's that. This just shows you how far in all directions redstone can go. So from here is like the center. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then the 15th one will be here. And then you'd have to put a repeater. So no more signal. So the best way to do it is just place down all your redstone, put a torch out where it's going to start, and then go and put your repeaters in. The reason that's the best way is so you don't have to go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever, and count all your redstone. So I'm going to show you how to make a really simple but really useful logic gate or circuit. I probably should call it a circuit. What it does is it changes an output from being on to off when pressed in certain areas. It's called an RS NOR latch, and this is how you build it. It's really easy, very cheap in resources as well. So that's it here, and what it does is if I was to send power into, it doesn't matter where you're sending power into, once it's just whatever. So the best way to explain this is kind of like a power button really. See, when you press this side, this one turns on and this one turns off. We see if I was to press this again, it doesn't do anything. It just stays like that. So the only way to switch it would be press this one. So what you could do was, rather than do something like that, you could send it into something that you'd want to use. Oh yeah, by the end of this series there's going to be you're going to end up building something really epic. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just using repeaters to reset the signal by putting them on a very long delay. So that's all I'm doing with this. Oh yeah, and 5 ticks equals a second. So this is 1 tick, this is 2 ticks, this is 3 ticks, that's 3 ticks, that's 4 ticks, so this would be 5 ticks. So that's 1 second, this is 1 second right here. So for every 2 repeaters is like a second and a half. Almost a second and a half. So you can also pass redstone currents through blocks, but for now just ignore what I'm doing here. Okay, so what you'd have is this light, that light over there is on. When I step on this, it goes off and back on. Now what this is a reset line. This will reset this side. So it's the equivalent of, it's the equivalent of having a pressure plate here. So like earlier, when I stood on this turned on, and then when I stood on this turned on. So it's the equivalent of doing that, but rather than using another pressure plate, you use an extra line. So this can be very useful for things such as pulse extenders or monostable circuits, and we'll get into them in the next video. But for now, all you need to know is this is a two-way kind of gate that you can use. So you have to put in a signal from one side, and then to change it you have to put in a signal from the other side. So that's, I don't know, it's really useful for some things, but for other things it can be useless. Like, for instance, there'd be no point of using this with a lever, just because this thing almost does exactly what a lever does. So you'd want to do it with something like a pressure plate. So what you could do is you could have something like this. But then underneath, let's move this. You could have. Also, the one I just showed you is the smallest one. So you can make them bigger and whatever, but underneath you could do something like, oh god, I don't know. Let me see. Oh yeah, doors and other things can be activated by redstone. We'll be getting into all that in different episodes. Okay, let me see. How am I going to do this? I think I can do this. Yeah, this is going to be really badly done for now. You could have something like this, and then like this. So what would happen is you then wire it out from like here or whatever. What would happen is when you walk into your house, lights turn on, and when you walk out of your house, lights turn off. So that's kind of a practical use for an RS NOR latch. And the next episode we'll be moving on to something a bit more complicated, which acts kind of like this, but at the same time is a bit better, and it involves pistons. So stay tuned for that episode, and I hope to see you soon.